So if you really want to improve your results in your life, you really have to change your beliefs. Your beliefs determine your actions, and your actions determine your results, and your results reinforce your beliefs.
Welcome back to the Sunshine Café, where we pour positive back into the world and elevate how you lead life with encouraging and faith-aligned conversations. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Sunshine Café. I am Lisa Roers, your host, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet my guest today, Stephanie Richardson. You know, we all have a passion in our lives. We all have a purpose in our lives. Some of us know it. Some of us are still trying to find it. But Stephanie is fantastic working with her clients and guiding them with her amazing 6 pillars and principles that she guides them through. But she also serves as a witness to their lives. And sometimes that is the most rewarding part of her work. So I'll let her tell you all about that. But Stephanie, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great to see your sunshiny smile. It's very appropriate for our Sunshine Cafe. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do in coaching your clients.
So I am a business and life coach. I'm also a public speaking coach, but we can talk about that later. But for the business and life coach part, I was a licensed professional counselor and worked in the counseling field for several years. And because of my history and experience of doing that, I know that people don't exist in a vacuum of just focusing on their business goals. And a lot of coaches do that. They only focus on business goals, revenue, number of clients, all those types of things, marketing. And I do that, but I also know the importance of focusing on life as well, because we are intricate human beings. There are so many facets to us. And most people find that they have an area or two in their life that tends to be a challenge for them. And they might be crushing it at work, for example, and really doing well and being successful, but they might be ignoring their health and fitness goals or their relationship goals. And their family is saying, "Why are you always on your phone when you're with me?" or whatever it might be. And so I really want people to feel like they have more balance in their life and that they have goals that they're working on in all of those areas so that they feel successful, not just in work, but that they're crushing it on the home front as well. And so that's what I do is I really try to help people have more balance in all of those different areas of their life.
What a needed role that is. My goodness. You touched on it and nailed it, is the fact that our human nature is so complicated and intricate and interconnected. And I love the work that you're doing because you are really helping people unlock their potential. And that's exactly, I think actually that is the name of your business, Unlock Your Potential. Right. So it's so exciting the way, because, you know, there's so much, we could just plug along in life and just kind of check the boxes and we could just kind of do the things. And then actually, you don't even know this about my story, but I had that moment myself where I was out mowing the lawn one day and I kind of heard this voice again, not like an audible voice, but like this thing that said, "Lisa, you are capable of more." So I wasn't reaching my full potential. And I love that you are touching on the whole person, because our health affects our work, affects our private life, affects our family life. So tell us how you walk through those pillars and those intricate, kind of complicated interconnections.
I love how you heard that voice that made you feel like you weren't living up to your potential. And that's exactly how a lot of my clients feel when they come to me, is they feel like they're ignoring some of the important areas of their life. And so what we do is we sit down and we set goals in 6 areas. Business, of course, because that's what most people come to me for, but their finances. So their health and fitness, their spirituality, right? Their relationships, and how are they pouring into their family. And so, you know, different things like that we focus on with setting those goals so that they're moving closer to their ideal version of their self and where they want to be in the future. And so It might be something as small as for relationships. Maybe, for example, I had a physical therapist that I was working with, and they had not had a date night in years, and they had small children. And as you know, when you have small children, they become a huge part of your world and managing all the things that they do. And so she really wanted to implement more date nights in her life with her husband. And so she needed an accountability partner, with me being that person to say, okay, we're scheduling a date night, we're going here. And now they've turned it into weekend trips and week long trips. And I've seen how that change has really benefited their relationship, but also it's made them better parents because they're more united and in working with the children, and they just have rekindled that experience that they had before they had children of being together as a couple. So that's one example I can think of how something that's a life goal, which might seem kind of insignificant to some people. Oh, we went on a date night, but I find a lot of times people aren't planning for things like that.
So true. And we, for whatever reason, in this human brain of ours, always like to look for that silver bullet. What's the one thing I can do to fix the weight? What's the one thing I can do to fix the relationship? But the fact is, it isn't one thing. It's 100 tiny things that
Yeah,
all add up. And so the date night adds up. And the whole process, we want to be good parents, we want to raise good kids, and we want to like pour into them. And let me just tell you, how else do our children learn how to have good relationships
right,
if their parents aren't modeling that for them? So, yeah,
right.
a simple date night doesn't sound like anything real complicated, but the ripple effects of that consistent date night and implementing that so your kids can see that mom and dad need time together is so important.
It is. It's critical. And it's also critical to focus on other relationships, such as your children, and how are you going to pour into those relationships? That was something I was very intentional about in raising my daughter. I'm a single mom, and people would always say, how do you manage it all? How do you do it all? And it was because I would specifically plan for events and things that we were doing together, whether we were going to the museum or the park or wherever we were going swimming. Whatever we were doing, we had these events that were planned where I could really spend time with her. And of course, there was time at home playing and interacting and those kinds of things as well. But those very intentional activities gave her something to look forward to. And when I was a therapist and I used to do family counseling, one of the recommendations that we would make is that each parent really needs to have some one on one time with each child and not just always be together as a family, because you really want to strengthen those relationships with each parent and each child individually as well.
Yeah, and sometimes when the kids are all together, we're actually in kind of a unique space because we only have one. And so when my husband has time with our son, I have time alone, which is actually also needed. But if you have 4 or 5 or 6 children, there's always someone in the mix whose voice is not getting heard
Mhm.
because they're not loud enough or because someone else is a little more dominant. So, yeah, scheduling that time where you have at least a little nugget of time
I
where you can spend talking just one on one is really important.
I think so, yeah. So those are some of the relationship types of goals that people might work on. But I've also seen people set goals around with relationships around they want to spend time with their extended family. Maybe they want to go visit their grandmother once a week, or maybe they have certain friends that they want to have coffee or lunch with once a month. So it's whatever relationships are important in your life, that's what you focus on.
That's really critical because, and you mentioned the word a couple of times, but it's like it's not going to happen on its own. It doesn't accidentally happen. It has to always be an intentional choice.
It does. And that's one of the things that helped me navigate my world as a single mom, was just being very intentional about how I was planning my time, because it's very limited when you're a single parent. and just making sure that I had time set aside for all of those different areas was really important as well.
Yes. Well, I know you. You have such a big heart. You have such an authentic desire to work with your clients and help them and really pour into them. And yet I know how much you care about your daughter. And there's like a ton of successes you and your daughter have been able to have together. So I'm curious because there's a lot of single parents that are probably listening right now to this episode. And how did you balance all of those different pulls on your time and still keep your sanity?
I think, first of all, it's important to have a community of people that are around you to support you. And that community can be family, but it's not always family. Sometimes people don't have their family locally where they can rely on them, or maybe their family isn't able or willing to help. And so I think you have to seek out that community and find that community. So when I didn't have that community readily available, I just developed it. I started a single moms group at church, and it was a Bible study, and we supported each other. And so it was great because many times as a single parent, you need a break to go to the grocery store without taking your children, or do something for yourself so that you can be at your best to be the kind of parent you want to be. And so what we would do is we would trade off with each other. You watch my children, I'll watch yours. And you could run errands, you could do whatever you wanted. And so I just developed that community around me because I didn't have it in place already. And then I also worked in my neighborhood to develop it. So I had several neighbors around me. I had a grandmother next door, and I had another mom across the way. And so I would just build relationships with those people, get to know them. So many people don't even know their neighbors nowadays. And, and I'm not that way. I know all of my neighbors. I know some of them have keys to my home. I have keys to their home. And so it was that kind of situation where I knew I could rely on them if I got in a pinch and I needed help. So the grandmother figure next door became a support system that if I needed to run an errand or I needed to work, she would watch my daughter and I would cook for her and take her food. And she was happy to have whatever I made. And so those types of support systems were important to help me be able to find the balance, I think. So, first of all, find the support or create the support if you don't have it, because there are other single parents out there that are needing support. And I found a whole lot of people that were in the same situation I was. And so we just supported each other. And I think most people would find that there are other people out there who would be willing to trade off without it costing them anything other than their time. And that becomes a resource when you have that community. So that was definitely important. I think the other part was just what you said, is being very intentional about planning those 6 areas in my life. And I failed to mention personal growth a while ago when we were talking about the areas. I make sure that I had time planned for my own personal growth, whether it was reading or listening to a podcast or whatever it might be, something that I was doing to grow myself. It might be reading parenting books, it might be reading business books or personal growth books, whatever. But that would be one thing that I would work on as well. Is did I have, a few minutes? I didn't have to read for 3 hours, but 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and I feel like I've done something. So I just made sure that I put those 6 areas in my calendar. So I tend to be a very organized person. So I like to just plan time for those things and schedule that time for myself, because it's not going to happen, like you said, if you don't. So are you reviewing your budget every Friday and looking at your finances? And how can you stretch your dollars? And there were so many things that I did as a single parent to stretch my dollars and to be able to give my daughter the kind of life that she deserved, but also where she didn't know sometimes when we were struggling, of course, because it was just what we did. So it was just the lifestyle we had. So just making sure that I had those 6 things planned that was really important to me. And that allowed me to feel like I was having that balance in my life and that I wasn't ignoring my health or ignoring my finances or ignoring my spirituality or whatever it might be, so that I could feel like I was making progress in all of those areas. And that builds your confidence when you do that. So
That's so true. The momentum kind of helps propel you even further. And I've often said to myself, it's if it's not in the calendar, it's not happening. Just so making the time and taking that intention to really just put it in the calendar. I put a lot of things on my calendar that still don't happen. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. Um, I love that you're talking about how, there's that old phrase about how it takes a village to raise a
yeah,
family. And I think all too often we have a tendency to think that we're failing or that we're imposing on someone by doing that. But when you explained it the way you did, Stephanie, you are enriching that grandmother's life
mhm,
and your children that are being poured into by neighbors who have a different approach and a different thought process, and they're getting poured into. So your kids are learning a different thing. The people who are pouring into it are learning. It's just things. It levels everybody up. It's like the tide raises all boats, right? When that tide raises up, everybody gets leveled up. And so I think tapping into that community is just so important. And I love that you didn't wait, like you weren't sitting there wallowing in your singleness or wallowing in your situation. You're like, no, I'm just going to go out and change it. I'm just going to go change it. I'm going to go make those connections. I'm going to go find that community. And that says a lot about you and who you are. But it also tells everybody else that they could do it too. Like
right.
it's waiting for you. You don't have to sit in whatever circumstance you're in. We all have power, so much more power than we think to change our situation. So, how do you walk your clients through that process of changing when they get stuck or when they don't know what next move to make? How do you walk them through change?
I think that most of my clients struggle with limiting beliefs that they have from something a parent has told them from childhood, or maybe a spouse, unfortunately, has told them. So, a lot of what we focus on with getting change is really looking at someone's mindset and what are the stories that you're telling yourself that might be holding you back. Because many times there's a story we're telling ourselves that's not true, but we think it's the truth. And we cling to that story, and that keeps us from moving forward and getting out of the stuck place we're in. And so, my goal when I'm working with someone in coaching is to move them from where they are to where they want to be closer to that ideal self. And yes, that sometimes means that they have to take risks and do things they're not comfortable with. I can think of a couple of clients of mine that absolutely despised public speaking and networking and having to stand up in front of people and give their pitch for the networking group of what they do. And we worked through that. We worked through how to do that. And they're both very, very confident now. And I've seen dramatic changes in them. And they would say that they have leveled up in that area and feel more confident. But a lot of times it's people don't want to admit sometimes what they're afraid of. And a lot of times they don't want to tell their spouse even because it means a failure in their eyes or something. And so I become that sounding board that they'll tell me, okay, this is where I want to change, but I'm afraid of this change. Okay, well, what's connected to that fear? What are your thoughts that you're having? And are those really true? Where did they come from? Let's look at where those come from. And what can we do to really help you move beyond that fear that's limiting you, that fear that's holding you back from changing? And I think once people start to see small decisions that they're making lead to huge results over time, a lot of times people want to know what the end result is, and we don't always know what the end result is going to be. And so it's just getting people to take the first step. They don't have to know all of the steps. They don't have to have all the information about all the steps, but they can just take the first step. And the first step builds the momentum, which leads to confidence, which leads to more change, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. It's just one step toward the outcome that you would like to have.
Mhm.
Knowing that that outcome might change. I mean, your goal might change. You might decide halfway down the road that you want to go somewhere different, which is totally fine. But it's just taking that one step. I don't know everything I need to do, but I know one thing I could do to move forward toward that outcome, right?
And one of the questions I ask my clients a lot is, what is your next best step? What is your next best step that you can take in whatever area it is that we're working on? And they can usually identify something that's small that they will commit to doing in the next 2 weeks to start building that momentum.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned two things that I love. Want to kind of back up a little bit and talk about, you talked about mindset and you talked about fears. And I think both of those things, there's a lot of talk out there right now about mindset and what this is, manifesting things. But really what it is kind of getting aware of the stories, like you said, the stories
Mhm.
that we're telling ourselves, or maybe something that was planted there by a parent or a spouse or a sibling or whatever it may be when we were younger. And it's reprogramming those kinds of stories so they start serving us. And the whole idea of fear is really something I've just fascinated by recently with the study of human development and human behavior and all of that. In that fear is really just a new thing our brain hasn't figured out how to do well.
Mhm.
Or it's, I did a public speaking thing once and I had a horrible experience with it once. And so your brain is like trying to protect you, right? I'm not
Right.
going to do that again. That was really scary. And I don't want to ever go there again. But really, what it is you're just building that brain muscle, the
Yeah.
neurological connections. You're just building those connection points. But really, once you've done it a couple times and realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. I was actually having this conversation with my son the other day because he was talking about wanting to do something, but he had fear around it. And I
Mm.
said, well, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
What's the worst thing that can happen? So, like, you do the worst thing on the tennis court. What's the worst thing? People are going to laugh for 10 seconds. They're going to move on to their own things that they're working, that they're, focused on. And they said, let's pick the really worst thing. Let's let your pants fall down and you're embarrassed in front of everybody. They're going to laugh for maybe the rest of the school year, but that's it. You're like, and that's never going to happen. So you kind of go to, what is the worst case scenario? If that's something that I can wrap my head around, I'm probably okay with anything else that happens below that.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. That mindset is critical. It really matters most. And if you don't feel good about whatever action you want to take, then the action is not going to really stick. You have to feel good about what you're doing first and get your mindset in the right space before you take action. So, if you really want to improve your results in your life, you really have to change your beliefs first. So there's something called the belief triangle, where your beliefs determine your actions and your actions determine your results and your results reinforce your beliefs. So if you believe, let's say that um, there's no business out there for you, nobody is interested in what you have to offer, then what are your actions going to be? Probably a big fat zero. You're probably not going to take action. You're going to procrastinate. You're going to put things off that you know you could be doing, and you're going to talk yourself out of taking action, saying, "Oh, it's too early to call. It's too late to call. It's whatever." And then what are your results going to be? They're going to be horrible, right? And you're going to say, "See, it reinforces your belief. There, nobody wants what I have to offer." But if you, on the flip side, say there are plenty of people out there that want what I have to offer, I just have to find my tribe, then what are your actions going to be? Well, you might go to a networking group. You might reach out to previous clients and ask for referrals. You might start a podcast. You might, whatever, you do cold calls. And then eventually you're going to find a yes. You're going to get a yes. And what does that do? When you get that customer, it reinforces that belief. There are plenty of people out there that want what I have to offer. I just have to find my tribe. But that belief triangle holds true for any area of your life. Whether you feel like, if you're saying to yourself, I'm overweight, I can't lose weight, whatever it might be, or I'm always broke, I can't get ahead, whatever belief you're telling yourself, that will continue to perpetuate unless you change your belief. You're not going to get different results in your life. So, whatever area it is, does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And actually, thank you very much. That's exactly what I needed to hear today. There's always that voice in the back of our head saying, oh, like you said, no, no one's going to want this, or no, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. And it's almost like worth writing out on a piece of paper those three things, the belief, the action, and the result, and writing down what you believe, even if you don't believe it yet. I will say it that way. What do you want your belief to be? Yes, I want to believe that I am the most successful business owner out there in this niche that I'm working on. Or yes, I know I can be physically fit and healthy and strong. I believe that. I think just putting on paper what beliefs we want to move toward is also a way of kind of reprogramming our brain.
Absolutely. I have all of my affirmations. I write them as I am statements. I am whatever it might be. And whatever in those 6 areas of my life that I've mentioned, I write those I am statements and they're in a journal. But I also have them recorded on my phone, on my voice memo. So if I am having a particularly challenging character building day and I'm going from one place to another in a meeting and I need to be reminded of my purpose and why I'm here and what my goals are, then I can stop in the parking lot and listen to myself because it's my voice saying it for a minute or two, whatever length it is. And it just helps me regroup from that distraction that might have happened. But I think there's a lot of value in writing them down and writing down your I am statements and writing down your affirmations. And you're right. Sometimes we don't believe it 100%. Many times people will say something, an affirmation, and then they think in their head, yeah, right. Right after they say it. For example, you might say, I am wealthy. Yeah, right. In your head or whatever. And so we have to learn to take baby steps towards believing that wholeheartedly. And so it might be something such as I believe that there is a lot of good that's going to come from the actions that I'm taking emotionally. There's emotional momentum that I'm gaining towards this goal of being wealthy or whatever it might be. And I'm making good financial decisions. I'm budgeting well. I am being mindful of giving to others or whatever it might be, right? But that you're taking those small steps towards believing that big affirmation that you might not believe right away, and that's okay. You're working towards it. Some of it is just tricking your brain into thinking that I'm getting closer to being wealthy every day, right?
Right.
So I'm taking steps. I'm getting closer to being wealthy every day. You may think in your head, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. I'm taking steps. And it's reframing it in that way that I think helps you emotionally deal with the disconnect of not feeling like you've actually done it yet. Does that do you follow me on that?
100%. Yes. And I think it's so powerful. I love the suggestion that you gave to put that into an audio that you can hear your own voice telling you. I mean, your brain recognizes your own voice as a very safe, very trustworthy voice. So if we can start programming our brain to hear those things, affirmations in our own voice, how powerful. That's a great suggestion. I love that one.
Great. I'm glad you like that.
Oh, Stephanie, I love visiting with you. I'm going to make sure we have all of your links in our show notes so people know how to find you. Before we wrap up, do you have any final encouragement or any final thing that's on your mind that you want to just remind people of?
I want everybody to know to just take the first step. Just like I was saying earlier, that you don't have to know all the steps. Just commit to taking the first step and go towards the direction you want to go. I think about the windshield in a car, and it's big and it's where you're going, and that's where you put your focus, is where you're going, not the rear view mirror, not where you've been, but where you're going. And so think about, where are you going and who do you want to be in that future, and take the first step towards that.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice, Stephanie. I love seeing you. I love your smile, and I love having your energy on the Sunshine Cafe. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Stephanie has such a great energy. For those of you who are watching the video, you can just see this beautiful joy exuding from her beautiful smile. I have 5 amazing takeaways for you today. Success is not just about your work. It's about your whole life. You can be doing really well in one area and still feel completely out of alignment with your health, your relationships, or your spiritual life. And all of those things really matter. Real success, however, is when all of those areas work together and don't pull against each other. When everything's aligned and working well together, you can just feel great about your entire life. Number 2, there is no silver bullet. Success is created by all the countless small little intentional actions we take over time. We tend to kind of look for that one really big fix, but real and lasting success doesn't ever happen that way. Like, ever. Successful change comes from the simple, consistent things we do every single day on purpose. Those little actions we take every day create momentum, and that momentum in turn is what gives you confidence to build on. You won't feel that confidence until you start taking action. And that leads me right into number 3, because I can almost hear you saying, but I don't know what action to take. I don't know how to do it all. But takeaway number 3, you do not need to know how to do it all. You only need to know how to do the very next thing. Waiting until you have everything all figured out is only going to just keep you stuck. Plus, you really don't even know what all the next steps are going to be until you start moving. Open that door and step through it. Clarity, my friends, comes from action, not from just sitting there and trying to overthink every single step and what might go wrong or what might go right. So ask yourself, simply, what is my next best step? And then do it. Number 4, your beliefs are shaping your results. So start there. What you believe drives how you act, and your actions determine what you experience. So you might as well start believing that you're going to accomplish great things, and that every action you pursue is literally just the next step you have to take on that path to the success that's already there waiting for you. If something you want isn't happening, or the change isn't coming as fast as you hoped it would, it's worth taking a pause and just asking yourself, what belief do I have about that thing? What is really beneath it? Because when our beliefs shift and we really decide this is going to happen, then the results will follow. And number 5, finally, you're not meant to do this alone, and you do not have to stay stuck. The support matters more than we think it does. In our society, we have a tendency to think we have to do it all alone and we have to be independent and all of that. But while we can pursue things independently, we need the support around us. And sometimes when we don't have that support, we actually need to do what Stephanie did. We need to go out and build it, find it, create it, make it happen. The fears are always going to show up. Those are not signs actually for us to stop. They're just signs that we're learning something new. And when you have that community of support around you, well, then you can boldly and confidently step out into the midst of that fear and keep on moving toward your success. My friend, keep on moving. Your success is waiting for you. And I think you're a lot closer than you realize. Hey friend, before you go, I want to make you aware of a free guide that's here right in the show notes called 7 Ways to Build a Grateful Mindset. Gratitude has such a powerful way of helping us get unstuck and giving us a motivated mindset. You can grab that right here in the show notes below, and I would love for you to have it. Thank you again for stopping by the Sunshine Cafe, and until next time, be encouraged, stay inspired, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week right back here at the Sunshine Cafe.